I'll say about a year and a half ago, I was at some type of so I was involved with some meetings involving politics. And one of those things that was, got on, subjects that got on, that people were talking about was the reasons, the school closing schools down, upwards to about 25 in Fort Worth. And one of the people that, I guess, that's on the city count, like, involving, like, I think he's in, like, in one of the overseers of the, one of the districts in Fort Worth, Chris Nettles, was saying, oh, if they're closing these schools down, it's going to affect the blacks and Hispanic community. But I think people don't, like, he doesn't want to address the reasons why these schools are closing down. Because one of my neighbors, he's a retired teacher, and he says he can understand why some of these schools are closing down. Because if there's not enough kids in the school, they're not making enough money to warrant staying open, because they're not making enough money to be able to take care of the pay the teachers' salaries, the janitors, and all the other people that work at that school, and upkeep of the school and whatnot. It's better just to shuffle them to a different school. And I think, like I say, some people just don't want to address the fact that a lot of the people nowadays, I have neighbors that, old enough to be being like that. Like, there's at least some people in my neighborhood that are old enough to be my parents and grandparents, great grandparents, that never had kids. And I think, and some of these people that never had kids, I think some of them, I think two of them didn't have kids because some people can't have kids. And I think some of the reason why some of these people didn't have kids is because they never find somebody to marry, to have kids with. And of course, one of my neighbors, they're about 15 years older than me. Like I said, it's a married couple, and they never had kids because they didn't want to have kids. Because kids cost a bunch of money. And I think that's the reason why a lot of these people with college degrees do not have kids, because of the cost of the kid, how much it's going to cost to take care of the kids, and some people just don't have the patience to be around kids, or stuff like that. I think that's part of the reason why there's a decline in schools, is because, like I say, some people are not having kids for various reasons. The other reasons I think there might be a decline on schools is because there are people that homeschool their kids or take their kids to private schools because they just don't like the direction that the public schools are, for various reasons. And then, of course, there was the debate over school vouchers. There's some people that are for it, some people are against it. Sometimes I feel like I want to, like, I would love to I would talk about it on YouTube, about my opinion about school vouchers, but the problem is you have to be careful what you say on here, because some people just don't like your opinions or other people's opinions, because they think they get offended easily. But like I say, I feel like talking to some of my neighbors about school vouchers. I know some of my neighbors are for it. I think some of them are for it, some of them are against it. I think the reason why some Democrats are against it was because Greg Abbott was talking about having it, and it seems like whatever the Republican Party's for, Democrats are against. I bet if the Republicans were for abortions, the Democrats would be like, oh, we shouldn't have abortions. Have a law to abort your kids. But like I said, it seems like whatever Republicans are for, it seems like the Democrats are against everything the Republicans are for. But like I said, another reason why I think people don't want their kids in public schools is because it seems like the state had to take over the Fort Worth Independent School District, because it seems like the kids score like when they do this testing on the kids, they're not doing a good job teaching our kids. That's what I think the reasons why some people might be against or why people are homeschooling or sending their kids to private. I feel like this is what people need to be addressing: is what can we do to make improve schools without offending the parents? Because I know sometimes those parents, there's reasons why, like I say, they sometimes get to listen to the parents, so that way the parents aren't sending their kids elsewhere. And don't force stuff down your ideals down the parents' way of thinking, because parents don't like it when people tell other people tell them, oh, you should raise your kid this way or that way, blah blah blah. So like I said, this is some of the underlying factors of, I think, the reason why some schools are better than others in some districts, and Fort Worth seems like it's not doing so well in the past few years. I wonder if COVID played a role into it. Because with the whole kids not being out of school for a little while. But hopefully some of the people that watch this would hopefully understand the reason why some schools are failing, or why they have to close down schools, because people aren't having kids like they're used to, or they're sending their kids elsewhere, like private, or homeschooling their kids for various reasons. And like I say, Fort Worth needs to the people that are in charge of Fort Worth needs to find ways to improve the quality of the school kids' education, to make them where they're people would say, I love having my kids in the school districts in Fort Worth. And of course, one of my neighbors, he apparently he didn't want to have his kids go to the schools over here on the east side of Fort Worth, so he managed to get his parents to buy a house somewhere in the nice area of Fort Worth, so his kids could go to a nicer school. And he's I think at the time he was teaching sixth grade at a school somewhere on Riverside. So he, like I said, some people just don't, some people have the opportunities to send their kids, would preferably their kids go to a nicer school than to some schools that they feel like are not doing so quite so good. And that's, I think, what some of these people don't want to address, of what can we do to make sure people aren't seeing other opportunities to to send their kids somewhere else.